Hi, and welcome. I am Tracy, and if you're here, then I'm terribly sorry. This is a place for parents who are estranged from their adult children. I want this to be a safe space. I have told the story in previous videos of how I am estranged from three of my four children, how that came about, what the reasoning was, and I'm honest. If if I'm to blame for something, I'm going to take credit for it. I won't take credit for something that I'm not to blame for. So today I want to talk to you about something. If you have been looking on the internet for support groups, if you've Googled adult children estranged from parents or any form of that, there's a really, really high chance that probably what you ran into was a support group for adult children, not for the parents. And I've even seen papers written by psychologists, psychiatrists. And one of the problems I think that we're having with this epidemic is that psychiatrists are set to um, lean towards the way their patient feels. Their patient comes in and says, "I've done no contact, and this is why." I'm sorry, let me just adjust this a little bit. My parents did this, that, and this, and so I went no contact, and they're usually told that was very brave, that was using their boundaries. You used your words, and for most of us, that has not been true. Um, we didn't get the list of boundaries. We didn't get the list of the rules. We, many of us, many people in this position never even got an explanation. They just vanished. I was reading an article by a woman who a couple weeks before he was to get married, she asked him if he was sure that this is what he wanted to do because they were young, and she had gotten married young, and her and her husband, and she just wanted to make sure that was what he wanted to do, knowing that it'd probably be a struggle and everything that comes with that. And he said no, he was sure, and this is the one, she's the one. Well, my guess would be that he went home, told her that she had asked him that, and suddenly they were removed from hosting the um, what is the word I'm looking for? The practice dinner, the rehearsal dinner. And I have so much that I just want to get out that my brain's like, oh, that gear got stuck. That they were no longer invited to the rehearsal dinner, which they were paying for. And I have a similar story that I will tell you about that. Um, and then they didn't speak to them, and they didn't speak to them. And a couple of days before her son's wedding, her son called and said, "I just want to make sure that you're not coming to the wedding because we have to tell him how many plates and stuff there's going to be. So you're not coming, right?" And of course, that was devastating. This had been a child that she was tight with, close to. They did everything together. And, well, he apparently, when he had told her that she wasn't allowed to come to the rehearsal dinner, she said the girlfriend got on the phone and said to the mom, "That's my family." And the mom was confused because she'd always accepted this girl and treated her like part of the family. And they are still not speaking to each other to this day. It's been quite a while. I went to go do some fact checking on this, and it's almost impossible because everything is geared towards adult children stop speaking to their parents because cultural differences, religious differences, political differences, abuse. I mean, that's where it goes. Um, I tried looking up like um, why is it so popular that adult children are going no contact, and I did find some information, some polls that said that, well, there's a large range in polls. There's a poll that says that like 26.4% of all families are going through this, have gone through an estrangement, and it's still going. 53% of all families, might have been 64, one of those, have said that they at some point had gone through an estrangement where they didn't talk. And that rate is as high as divorce. So I think about that, how common divorce is, and this is as common. And I found an article that said that one of the reasons why it's hard to get people to take part in these polls is because they feel shame, they feel embarrassed, and they don't want to say, my child doesn't talk to me, let alone say, three of my children don't talk to me. Because a natural reaction to that would be the snarky one that says, well, there's one common denominator. True, there is a common denominator, and it's me, but all three of them have chosen to protect the oldest one this time because we had gone through an estrangement for 3 years. Talked about this in my first video. My oldest son didn't really get an actual girlfriend until he was probably 23, 24 years old. None of my kids have really been interested in dating until they were older. And the first two that he had were, well, they ended up being lesbians. So I think he was looking in the wrong place. Um, then he found this girl, and they had worked together. He had known her for a long time, but she was a minor, and so that was a hands-off situation. Period. And then she turned 18. I think he was, I want to say 23, and they started dating. She came from a broken home. She had a younger brother. Her mom and dad had been married, and then her dad walked out of their life for quite a while. Her mother met a woman, and they are partners. And then her dad went on to have two or three more children that he didn't tell her about, young kids. And she was in her, 18, 19. I think, um, I think I want to do Psychiatry 101. When little girls lose dads, the presence of a dad, we look for affection. That is psychological, psychiatric fact. Um, Almost every girl that you'll ever see that's been in trouble, struggles, is usually a child who didn't have a present father or who had an abusive father. And I was adopted by my stepfather when I was 3. But um, I had stopped being allowed to see my biological father by the time I turned 5 because he had married a cult of one who wanted me to call her mom. And at 5 years old, at any age, I reacted to that in a manner in which he deemed um, that he would not be able to see me again. And I said, I have a mom. And so at 5 years old, and my brother at 3 years old, we were, you know, alone without our biological father. And in my daughter-in-law's case, I think that she saw my son, who was quite a bit older than her, had been working, had a good job, and I think she saw him as that protective figure that she'd been lacking. And and by the way, I'm not saying families have to have fathers. I'm not saying that. There are a lot of male um, influences that you can bring into a child's life. Uncles, grandpas, you know, cousins. There's a lot of male influences. I'm strictly talking about for the people who did not have other options, did not have other male family, did not have um, that type of connection with a male. Um, and which is why when my son was little, I made sure that he had connections with all the people um, that could raise him up and let him know that they had his back. I think that she maybe felt like nobody had her back at the time. Her mom was in a newish relationship. Father was gone, and then he met and married a woman who was much younger than him. And so as I sit and try to figure out what is the deal with her, I think that she just wants him all to herself. And they now have 2 children, and she only wants him to herself. And I don't think that that's going to change unless she matures light years or they were to get divorced. And I understood that woman's story when she was talking about it. And I read some psychiatrists saying, that parents need to look at themselves and see what abuse they um, laid onto their children, and whatever that is, emotional, psychological, physical. And of course, there are people who stop talking to their parents because of an abusive situation. I mean, I don't think that anyone would blame them for that. But most of these cases are not that. And I read a quote that said, going no contact with somebody when you've tried and you've set boundaries and the other person is refusing to respect your boundaries, or there's some narcissist or some type of abuse. When you put down those lines, at some point you come to a line in the sand and you go, okay, that's this is where I'm going to drive the line. And but to but there's a difference about just full on silent treatment. That's what they called it, the silent treatment. No reason. Um, a, a lot of you have not been given a reason. A lot of you have asked to be told a reason and been given the, I call them post-it note words of the day, like boundaries and a journey and freedom and roles and just there's a lingo out there. And so it almost feels like it's a cult. These people find doctors, find psychiatrists who hold them up and say, oh my gosh, your mom told you when you were 14 that she was going to take your Christmas presents away if you didn't behave. You're right, that's abusive. That's abusive. They enforce that. They enforce somebody who would rage out and physically hurt me. They enforce in her that she has changed the story. She That is not what happened. That is not what happened. She was never abused, but she's changed the story to where she's on the end of the abuse. And that's simply, simply not true. Um, there are few people I told about it because I didn't want people to, I don't know what, judge her, shame her, whatever it was, the reason. It was the wrong choice because she's in a position now where she has to tell people that this is what's happening. So she's believed. As I said in another video, when it first started out, she said that people were telling her that her reasonings were nothing to stop speaking to a parent about. That they were saying to her, well, my dad did this. My mom, locked me out of the house, whatever. And she was upset about that. She put a whole post on Facebook about how upset she was that people were demeaning the path she was on and her journey. And then right after that, she started posting, oh, I was abused. And there's no way that I can combat that. People either know me or they don't. They either know her or they really, really don't. And this quote said that, not speaking to someone, just boom, cut it off, is abuse. Abuse, in fact, that is as bad as physical abuse, but it doesn't leave a scar. There's nothing to show somebody the wound that you have by not being allowed to see your children or your grandchildren. You can't show them the stitches. You can't show them the missing limb that it feels like you're missing. You, if you were physically abused, which I said one of my children did, I had a picture of this huge bruise, and I ended up getting rid of it. Kind of regretting that now, but Um, so when you're going out there and you're looking for support, don't be surprised that you're not going to find it. It's almost all about these adult children who grew up and realized that, okay, okay, when I grew up, my parents didn't come to a single sporting event or, play or anything. And it's just how it was, and it's just how it was. Um, when my kids grew up, I did the exact opposite. I knew, I didn't know how to parent, but I knew how not to parent. I did the exact opposite. I went to everything. I showed up for everything. I everything they needed, they had. They never went without. And then everything they wanted, somehow we'd make it happen. And we didn't, we hid from them the difficulties of what that meant. Side jobs, working double shifts, um, getting a credit card and trying to put Christmas on a credit card. They didn't know that there was a housing bubble. And so my husband couldn't make the same amount of money anymore. We didn't put that on them. Sometimes we would say, like, no, we can't go out to eat. We can't go to McDonald's. I don't have the money. And that was it. We didn't put on them, show them the struggle. There was nothing for them to stop them from saying, oh, I want to PlayStation this, or oh, oh, we that, or anything, Nintendo that. There was nothing to stop them because they got it. And we struggled to do that for them. And I wish that what I had done is what my parents did to me and every person my age that I know. We had a job of some sort, whether that was babysitting, mowing grass. I would house sit, I would pet sit. And by the time I was 11, I was buying my own school clothes. Now, I do not wish I did that to my kids. That was insane. Um, but if we were going to go on vacation, my parents weren't going to buy us the stuff we wanted. We had to earn the money and we could buy it ourselves. My kids have never experienced the horrors of going to Disneyland and having to buy their own souvenirs. They've never experienced that. They would go pick up something, they wouldn't look at a price tag, and they would ask for that, and we would get that. Now, vacation wise, we set it up for that. Life wise, I'd been raised so much because our parents, if something was wrong, I mean, I knew it. I was waiting for my parents to pick me up from school once, and they didn't come for a long time, and it was because our car was repoed. I knew what a struggle was. I knew that my mom had to make our Christmas presents one year. She sewed them. I knew that sometimes our stockings had apples and oranges in them. I knew that. I knew that. My dad had a job once for a while that he worked really late at night, and he would stop during the day and go to what was called a penny candy store. I know, I know, penny candy. That's how old I am. In fact, 3 weeks from now I'll be 57. Um, and he would bring a little baggie home for me and my brother. It was probably 5 things in each bag, 10 cents. And But we knew that it was special. My aunt, and my cousins would wait until we left, whoever house was at Christmas. So if it was ours, they left. If it was at my grandmother's, we left. My aunt's, we left. And then they would open their presents so that we didn't see what they'd gotten. So this is not an age group of people, for the most part, that experienced that. My daughter did get a job when she was 16. My son did get a job when he was 17. And I took them and picked them up at midnight. And they didn't have to worry about not getting home. They didn't have to worry about getting there. Um, so when they're being supported and they're being told that that was abuse. It was abuse. My youngest daughter thinks it was abusive and crossed boundaries because I would buy her food when she moved out and she didn't have any food. She thought that was boundary crossing. Um, if she needed little stuff like toilet paper, hairspray, shampoo, soap, I would buy it and have it delivered to her. And she drove my car. If it needed the tags, we'd put it on. If she needed new tires, we'd buy them. And she told us that she felt that was abusive because we were overstepping our boundaries. And do you have a psychiatrist that supports that says, yes, that's abusive? My son had a great childhood. My oldest loved it, loved it. Always talked about how much he loved it. His problem with me didn't come till he married a cult of one. The day he asked her to marry him, we had taken her to Disneyland with us. We had her come over and watch an election and play family games. And the day he proposed was the day that it went south. It went south. She got to stop pretending that she cared about us. She got to be bridezilla, and my son watched it. So do I think it's her fault? I think it's equally his fault. I'm not letting him off the hook. He doesn't have to agree to not see his family anymore. He doesn't have to agree to keep his children from his parents, but he agrees to it. And and I don't know if that's because she's threatened that she'll leave him. I know he's in a difficult position. Whatever the reason is, he's agreed to it. And so I was just thinking about this as I was looking for statistics today, that it's almost exclusively about these poor adult children who had great lives. So many people will tell you that their kids had great lives. They were in sports, they had friends, their parents were kind and weren't abusive, and the easy parenting, alternative parenting kind of thing, which we did as well. Um, you know, talk to them and have them use their words. What are your feelings? What is this feeling you're having? Which, I mean, I would still do that if I had a child. I would do things differently, like punishment or repercussions for something they did. Kind of feels like you're punishing yourself when you have 4 kids. And you tell them that, okay, You guys were roughhousing and you broke my great grandmother's vase. You're going to go sit in your bedrooms and read for a while. Except for they were upstairs and they would talk back to each other and then they would get in a fight. And then the one would come down and say, Mom, blah, 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 said, Mom, blah, 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 because two of them shared a room. Blah, 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 kicked me. Mom, somebody pulled my hair. It got to be, we're just like, okay, here's the other option. Go outside. But we lived in Arizona and it was hot, hot, hot. Um, so it was, it was following through with a punishment or repercussion is difficult. Every parent knows this. You walk into a store, they see candy, toy, whatever it is those demon store people do to grab you right when you walk in. They see it. It's a shiny. I want it. No, we can't get that right now. And we've all had them do it, right? Just lose their shit. In the cart, on the floor, stand up. They're dead weight. They will not stand up. Come on, stand up, get in the cart, or sit up, sit up. And they're screaming and thrashing. And to make things even better, is all the other people around you are judging you. If I was you, I would just whoop her ass. Oh, he deserves a whooping. Why aren't you whooping him? Um, he's trying to express his emotions. Mm. And I'm working on that. And so I'd take him out of the store till I could, you know, calm down, understand. And then there was always like holding the hand grenade again, going back into the store, right? You just didn't know. You didn't know that pin was going to be ripped out. Um, the people who judge that are the same people who judge you, who judge me. They say that out of like 50 or 60% of the people who have been had no contact or been estranged from their children, almost nobody tells their family unless it's a have to know situation. Like, hey, my son is hosting Christmas this year and we will not be there. And a lot of these psychological papers were like, you know, you can't tell your family that because then that'll make them look bad. And if that makes them look bad, then that makes you look bad. And you just have to be like, there's just a thing, you know, I don't feel good. No, 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 no. The first time we had no contact, nobody in my family went to their wedding. No, I can hear it. The judgment. I would never do that. I would never leave my child. I would never desert my child. I would never hurt my child like that. Well, that was my child's choice. That wasn't my choice. That was my child's choice. And when you make a choice, there are consequences. And my family was supporting me in that consequence. And what's difficult now is that my adult kids, they're supporting each other for different reasons. Nobody wants to lose contact with their older brother because he's married to the cult of one and she decides who has access or not. My oldest daughter, she has two children that are almost the same age, and she wants them to grow up to be cousins. And I don't think she understands yet that both she and my daughter-in-law are capable and willing to cut that off at any time. My youngest daughter, well, she had the burden of having us give her too many things. And I mean, I don't even know where to start with that. But I just wanted to say, when you're looking and you're looking up, trying to find information about this, what helps, most of the information you're going to get is that you're being a bad parent. It's the information they're getting. It's the support they're getting. And I just want you to know that excluding abuse, because for most of us that's not the situation. So excluding abuse, I'm here. I'm here. There's a lot of people out there. Obviously, 50 or 60% of people have experienced this. That's 23% have experienced it over long term. But think about that. If you're in a room and there's 4 people, that's almost that one person in that room is experiencing estrangement from a family member, child. You're not alone. And I will certainly not judge. I want this to be a community that lifts each other up. Please, please subscribe. My channel is minuscule right now, and therefore the only way it's seen is if you subscribe and you click the bell to have every video I put up sent to you in a notification. Give it a thumbs up, please. It really helps the algorithm grab onto something. Leaving comments helps the algorithm grab on. Once you've watched a certain type of video like this, it'll help bring me back. And so I just wanted to talk about that. And I know I was all over the place. I am kind of all over the place. I do have I am on the autism spectrum. So you might have already been able to tell that. It's hard for me to like look in the camera and just the stuff. So give me some grace, please, because on my other channel I'm not even seen. So it makes it so much easier than this. And just thank you. Thank you for coming back. And if this is your first time, please stay, look at the other videos, and I will support you. I will be a person who is a ride or die for you. And that's what we need. We all need that in these situations. Thank you for coming. Good night.